And three, two, one. And hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. So today I'm going to go right into the deep end here. What it's like, what it takes to be a racing driver. Now, obviously, most of you're not going to be planning your life to be a racing driver. But it's like a lot of sports stars, sports athletes out there. The commitment you need to be a race driver, you have to be all fucking in. For instance, I started when I was 10 years of age in karts. And we're going to go all the way back, and I'm going to give you the background of what it is, the behind the scenes, because it's not all glamour, what you see on TV. And even though Netflix Drive to Survive, fantastic program, documentary, but at the same time, that's the glamour side of things. And 99% of this isn't glamour at all. So for instance, I'm going to go back to when I was 10 years of age. I started racing in karts. And, you've got to look after your diet to a degree in karting. You've got to have, obviously, a good bit of fitness. Otherwise, you're not going to go anywhere, right? So you got to get away with it in karting. So for anybody actually who wants to take up karting, you don't have to be all in, as you'd say. And we're going to get to that when you get to car racing. But when it comes to the karting itself, as long as you got a good fitness level, you're good. I mean, when I was 10, I raced in karts up to 15 years of age. We were traveling around Ireland, going to different tracks in Cork here, Adventure Park in Watergrass Hill. We were going to Kilcornan in Limerick. We were going to Mondello in Dublin, Nuts Corner in Belfast. 4 great tracks, fantastic tracks. And, even at 10 years of age, you've got to love what you're fucking doing here. Because, your friends are hanging out at 10 years of age and, you're missing out on playtime because you're practicing during the week. You're not around. You've got to get a good night's sleep as a 10-year-old. You've got to be going up to these race weekends every weekend. So even at a race weekend, you're gone on the Friday. You're testing on Saturday. You're racing on Sunday. And then on Monday, even as a 10-year-old, you're pretty fucked. You're tired because, you've got the mental concentration, first of all, to on the Sunday, you've got the adrenaline, the nerves. I mean, you're exhausted by the Monday. And then you're straight back into school, right? And the thing is, you're taking time off school as well, especially for the big events like the Irish Championship race event. Now, normally you'd be testing on a Friday, so that's one day off school. The Thursday you're taking off as well because you're getting ready and you're traveling up on the Thursday, right? So even for a parent, right, looking to get your kids into racing, hopefully this helps you because, this is what it takes, right? This is the kind of commitment that you fucking need to do it. And so, I was doing that for 5 years. For me, I actually, I dropped out of school at 15 years of age because I was doing so well that we were going, right, if we're going to do this, we're all fucking in here. We're all in. And that's the way it had to be. And so I remember being in 5th year in school. Now, I was quite young to be in 5th year, in fairness. So I went from racing karts to racing cars. I mean, it's so hard to explain to people the difference between karting and cars. It's unbelievable, right? Excuse me. So I remember being in 5th year, right? And we were looking at my career saying, okay, well, we need to take this to the next step. We need to get into Formula Ford 1800s in England, right? Now, by the way, when we're thinking of this, I didn't even know how to drive a fucking road car. I never even changed a gear, nothing, right? So I remember one day, this was because it all came so fast. My dad came to me and he said, right, well, look, okay, we need to get you to learn how to drive a car. So we went to our karting track, and I literally was doing laps around the place. I mean, guys, you have to remember, I was stalling the car. I was fucking up. I didn't have a clue how to use a clutch. I was all over the place at 15 years of age, right? And then I had the added pressure of knowing that, Jesus, okay, well, I need to learn this now because I'm going to racing cars. So Going around, spent about a day and a half, which was way too little. Um, and then about a week later, at 15 years of age, my dad said, right, well, look, it's now time. We need to take this to the next level. I went, yeah, you're right, Dad. And we, he turns to me and he says, look, okay, you're going to go to England tomorrow. You're going to pack your bags. You're going to be living over in England and race with the team. I mean, it was so sudden. I mean, at 24 hours notice at 15 years of age, I was like, oh my fucking God, what the hell is going on here? So that's a big jump. Now, yeah, it was a huge jump from my dad. But at the same time, look, if you're going to do it, you jump in anyway. So I never thought it was anything bad from my dad. We just had to go. That's it. Now, believe me, when the time push came to shove, I was scared out of my mind. 15 years of age, I never I never lived away from home ever. I had to go on this huge health diet. So in a 24-hour period before I got on that plane to go to England, I drove a road car for about a day. I was 15 years of age, loved my junk food, and I had to quit all of that. I had to get fit. I had to get a new training regime, because no matter who you are, karting you can get away with fitness, but cars you cannot, because you're dealing with G-force, etc. So that was an insane amount of information to process as a 15-year-old. Like, imagine, you guys, at 15, you all of a sudden realize you have to go on a diet. Forget about traveling into a different country. Just go on a diet, health diet. That is one heavy pill to swallow. So I had all these factors thrown in at me all at once. So I went over, and this team was now a very average team. I mean, I just was not with it, frame of mind. It was too much too soon. Like, I didn't have enough time to prepare. So, do you know what? It was a great learning year, though. And I'll always be grateful and thankful to my parents for doing this. You know why? Because it toughens you up. It was honest to God, one of the greatest gifts I've ever received in my life. To do it that, throw yourself into the deep end, fuck it, because you learn to swim. Or you drown. Really simple. So as I went over, it was pre-season, and pre-season is sort of December, January, February, and you kick off the racing year in March, April. And so we all decided, I go over, did some bit of testing here and there. The team were a complete bunch of assholes. Like, they were kind of bullying me almost. It was pathetic how they were. They didn't have a fucking clue what they were doing. And to be fair, I didn't either, because I was still trying to process a fucking health diet and living away from home. And I end up trying to stay in this apartment with my race engineer at the time. Well, you wouldn't even call him a race engineer, this guy. But still, he was technically a race engineer. And so I was living with him in an apartment. And I was living in his apartment. Now, this guy's about 30 years of age. So all of a sudden, he hooks up with the neighbour directly across the road. This one called Mannix. I'll never forget her. And by the way, that's God's honest truth. Her name was actually Mannix. Mannix. Right? And this girl now was rough around the edges, let me tell you. I mean, she was just a scumbag. Absolute scumbag. And I'll never forget it. I had to go live with her because he was moving out after about 3 weeks of living with him and meeting her. He decided to shack up with her, and because of that, I had to go live with her and him in her house, and it gets worse. I mean, Jesus Christ. Do you know what? I haven't actually talked about this. I don't think I've ever actually talked about this properly, except to my mum. No, it's not a huge family secret, but I suppose I never wanted to go there. This is actually kind of healing for me, to be honest, I have to say. Jesus Christ. It's therapeutic just getting it all out. And we lived there, and she had 4 cats. First of all, this place was a dump. She had 4 cats, and anybody that's listening to this, may God as my witness, this is not one word of exaggeration what I'm about to say. This is not an exaggeration. She had 4 cats, And she was such a scumbaggy, messy woman. She used to let the cats shit on the floor, the actual kitchen floor, the TV floor, some upstairs, even on the actual stairs. She never used to put out those, what do you call them, the kidder litter boxes. And when she did, she had them, and she was so lazy that she actually did not bother to empty them out. I mean, to actually see this, what human being in their right mind actually wants to live in that type of mess and a smell of cat shit everywhere? Like, if anybody's listening to this, you're probably thinking, I'm full of shit, I'm making this up. And I'm not making this up. And you know, funnily enough, that's one part of this that this wasn't a gift, the cat shit. And I remember I'm 15 years of age, I'm calling home to my mum, bawling my fucking eyes out. I don't know what to do. We talked to my dad, and we got it sorted after a few weeks, because no one can live in that disgusting mess. I mean, imagine, guys, right? You're away from home, 15 years of age, going on a health diet, trying to learn how to race a car. Then all of a sudden you're living with some guy, and then because he wants to live with some girl, then all of a sudden you have to actually move in with that girl who you don't want to be going in with. And there's literally cat shit on the floor in the kitchens. Little puddles of cat shit. I gotta say, actually, it even brings that little boy, my inner child coming back up at me here. Jesus Christ. So we finished off the year, and I mean, it was a flop, but it wasn't a flop. That year was an incredible life learning year for me in terms of, you know, being independent. It was also a brilliant year of just learning how to drive a car, right? Because I had no preparation. I was mentally fucked in a bad place with everything going on, you know. I couldn't breathe. And then we came back to Ireland, and again, like guys, and then I had to really get into the training, right? The weight training, the cardio programs. And I mean, you've got to be, at 15, 16 years of age, you've got to be training at least 2 hours a day. My diet consisted of going from, like I was saying, junk food from when I was a kid, eating, you know, crisps and potatoes and chocolate bars, all that shit. I went from that to going into the major health diet, because I got this allergy test, and I found out that I'm really allergic to pretty much every fucking food out there. Wheat, yeast, tomatoes, dairy products. I mean, so limited that my diet. And so you got to be training 2 hours a day. 2 hours a day. Now you can take, you know, the Saturday and Sundays off. That's cool, right? But Monday to Fridays, you're on that treadmill, or you're out running, jogging, whatever you need to do. You're out there for 2 hours a day. Plus, your health diet now is different, right? You're eating porridge in the morning, which is obviously very, very healthy and good for you. I was eating porridge in the mornings. For lunch, I was eating organic pasta. Now, the organic pasta, there was no sauces, no salt, no sugars, no added anything. I had to go on literally as plain as you can go. And again, now, there was it. Look, it's not all poor me, because you feel fantastic after this stuff, the porridge and the pasta, right? And then, you know, for dinner, you'll have your meat and your veg, right? But you mean, you gotta have your meat. You know, you're not, otherwise you just don't have fucking energy. You're going to be so slim, anorexic almost. And it's really tough. It's really tough, but this is the commitment that you need to do. Now, you can have some junk food at the weekends, and because, again, the advantage of getting that fit is that if you get that fit, you can get away with eating junk food because you're burning it off so fucking fast. But you have to get to that stage where you can do that, right? The weight training is very, I suppose, specific. You've got to be as light as you can. Excuse me. You've got to be as light as you can. So you're only lifting 2 kilo weights, like very light weights, just tone up the muscles. Your wrists are a huge factor of it too. Your arms, of course. So like that was my first year, and then I went into the Formula Fords, and but again, you've got to up the fitness training when you're starting to progress up the levels, right? And again, as you're getting older, like I'm 18, 19, all my friends are going on the piss, drinking at the weekend, and the weekend before a race event, you're not drinking, right? If you have it about 2 or 3 weeks off, believe me, a racing driver, we go fucking mental then when we let loose, so like if you're racing on next weekend, this weekend coming, you're not drinking at all. You're in bed fucking early because you got to have the right fucking time. Even if, like, when I was racing in America, we got the jet lag. So a couple of weeks before you go to America, you're timing your body. So if I was racing in New York, which I did, they're 5 hours behind. I'd stay up an extra 5 hours in Ireland, and then get up. So yeah, getting up earlier or later, and then you're staying up earlier or later, right? And that's the kind of commitment it takes. I mean, it really does. And you know what? That's not just for me. This is for all sports athletes or sports stars out there. The commitment and focus you need is unbelievable. Now, I mean, PlayStation, God love them, they were great because the Formula One games were unbelievably realistic, and they're just getting better and better every fucking year. And that keeps your mind sharp. So, you're better playing an hour of that a day, 2 hours a day in the gym, or running on the road, whatever, the healthy food, so like people can see the Netflix Drive to Survive documentary, and you know what? It's no joke. You don't see the behind the scenes, the dark side of racing, call it, and then you get to like practice days where you've got to be up in the morning early and ready to go, stretching and the whole lot. You're setting up the car for the weekend. You're spending the whole day there. And then, you get to the race weekend and you've got to be on it. You can't go to bed late at night. You just cannot go to bed late at night. I mean, I remember this one time, we were karting. It was when I was 15, I think. And there was a race event in Mondello. So I decided, there was 2 nights before that, there was a party. Now it was coming to the end of the season, as far as I remember, or maybe I think it was. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was coming to the end of the season, and I never knew that it would affect me that much. So it was the Sunday the race, the Friday night there was a huge party going on, and that was rare. And I had a few drinks that night, and I raced on the Sunday. And let me tell you this, guys, your reactions have to be so good for racing that even on the Sunday at 15 years of age, I fucked up in the race. I broke too late going to a corner, completely missed my reactions were shot, and I went straight off in the rain into the gravel. And race over, done. And that was simply down to fucking drinking 2 nights before that. Right? I mean, it's unreal. Like, I mean, it's funny to look back on it now, but I mean, you gotta really be all in, guys, or nothing. And you're risking your life too in racing, and that's a huge thing. Like, it's funny. If anybody has ever heard of Mark Webb, he was a 5-time BMX champion, right? So it's weird because I met him, and there's different types of risk. So in other words, as a racing driver, I'm strapped into a car. Okay? Really strapped in, nice and tight. There's roll bars around me. You're thinking, oh, hey, cool. Now, if you go off at 150, 160 miles an hour, you could be dead. Especially the cars that I was racing back then, they were nowhere near as safe as the cars that now, right? So you could be dead. Now, weird though, you mightn't actually break any bone in your body, but you could still die. Whereas I knew this Mark Webb guy, BMX champion, not necessarily risking your life, because you're on a BMX, and okay, he was doing like freestyle stunts. I mean, amazing stunts. But the carnage these guys went through, like he knew guys that were paralyzed in wheelchairs. But yet, you wouldn't necessarily lose your life in a BMX accident, but you could get every injury in the world. Versus racing cars, you probably won't get any injuries on your body, but you could die. So I mean, it's amazing the way, and fascinating, interesting the way the different sports can bring different risks. You know, like I mean, I did know three guys when I was racing. They're all dead. They're all dead. I remember a guy who used to race in Formula 1800 with me. He went into a corner in third gear, about 120. I don't know what happened to him. He went off the track into a tire wall. The wheel came off his car, and it went straight up in the air, and it came straight down out of all the sky in all the world. It came straight down on his helmet. Bang. Dead instantly. I knew this guy who progressed to IndyCar in America. 200 mile an hour crash. Hit the fence. And to be honest, they don't show much of it on TV or YouTube or anything. And that's good. It's respectful. He's dead. Another guy I know, dead, IndyCar. There was other guys that raced in the lower levels. Excuse me, dead. So it can be. It can be horrific. Horrific. I mean, I was incredibly lucky. I mean, I remember there was a race crash I had in Snetterton in Formula Ford, and that you're going into you're coming out of this corner called the Bomb Hole, and you're going into, I think it's called Ritchie's. You're going in third gear flat out, and then coming out of Ritchie's, you're doing it about 130, and then you brake really hard because you're going to a first gear corner. Now, when we say brake, guys, like, this isn't like a road car, you gradually put on the brakes, and like, you're doing this at 100 meters from the corner. Now, if you can imagine 100 meters, that's fuck all at 130, 140 miles an hour, right? So you are slamming on the brakes down 2 gears from third to first, and it's into a chicane. Went for the brake pedal, nothing. And fortunately, there was a runoff straight ahead of me. So I was turning into a right-hand chicane, but I realized, oh shit, I've got no brakes. So I actually had to go through the grass. Well, I was hoping to go through the grass anyway, and I went through the grass, and at least I can get back onto the main straight again, hook up with everybody, and just casually bring the car back in, really slow pace with no brakes. And so all of a sudden, huge bumps and dips in the grass that I tried to go through, and the car just launched up in the air. I actually, even to this day, I remember it like it was 2 minutes ago. And I just see myself seeing the sky flying through the air. And it's weird, guys, because there's no actual noise. Honest to God. It's like watching a movie and you put the TV on mute. There's nothing. Nothing. I remember every image, but I remember no noise. Not even slamming down on the track again, back to ground. Nothing. And everything happens in slow motion. And I ended up going through tried to go through the grass to join onto the straight, but I ended up actually in the chicane over on the right hand side, about 150 yards over. And my engineer actually saw the crash, because the main straights, that's where your mechanics and engineer actually stand, and he saw the whole thing. He thought I was dead. Luckily I got out of the car, just concussion, bit banged up, but nothing major. So like, I've had cracked ribs. My hand, actually, my right hand, I'm not sure if I actually broke it before, but it never actually healed properly. So I think I fractured it, or maybe I actually did break it, but I have a lump still on my right hand, for when I was racing back in the day. Never actually healed properly, even though I have perfect strength. So I've got that. Concussion about 6 or 7 times. So I don't know, maybe that'll impact me when I get older and older. Hopefully not. So it is, guys. It's different type of risks for different type of sports stars, sports athletes. But it's no joke. I mean, you have to be all in. And I think, you know what, guys, I'm going to wrap this up now, but I suppose really what I'm trying to get to with this whole thing, at the end of the day, the bottom line, the point is this: you have to be all in. I was. I had a brilliant career, and you know what? Lack of sponsorship, I didn't get to the end, unfortunately. And that happens for about 99.5% of drivers. No joke. 99.5%. It's just the way it is. But you still have to be all in. So whether you're trying to be a tennis player, soccer player, football player, rugby player, hockey, Formula One star, you have to go all fucking in. Because believe me, like, I have no regrets on my commitment to racing. I never look back and go, oh, you know. No, I definitely had some race weekends where I wasn't as sharp or I was distracted by other things. Yeah, I did. But nothing major, you know. Because look, we're all human at the end of the day. We all have our good moments and our bad moments, you know. You're going to be off. You're going to make mistakes. But it's all about commitment. Even in relationships, which I talk about a lot on social media, you have to be all in if you're going to do this. You know, if you're going to go be a sports star, do the diet, do your 2 hours of training a day, take the weekends off, right? You have to make sure you know what you're about to go in before you go in. You know, and the most important thing, you enjoy the process. You enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, you're fucked. You are fucked. And I would recommend, if you don't feel like you want to go all in, don't. Find something else you can do. Pick up golf. You know, I mean, athletes these days are definitely getting healthier and fitter because of Tiger Woods. He changed that whole game. But you gotta go all in. You know? And if you don't, well, maybe golf is good for you or something, you know? So, yeah, guys, that's my behind the scenes of, I mean, I haven't even touched the surface, really, of my racing stories, but yeah, that was some of the shit that I put up with when I was 15, 16, 17, 18. And it is tough, guys. It's tough. So, I'll leave it there. Guys, thanks for listening, and I'll be back again. Cheers, guys.